Hi everybody, it's Jason Irwin here from Jason and Bronwyn Irwin Horsemanship, and in this little video I'm going to work with this filly here. She's I think she's 3.5. She's been here to be started. I've put something like 20 to 22 rides on her, I'm not just sure. When she came in, she hadn't been handled very much. She was taught to lead, but she was pretty nervous of people. I think she was fairly good with the owner, but didn't really trust or know other people, if that makes any sense at all. But anyways, I got her going. I am happy with her. I think she's a very nice filly. She is a horse that still has a little bit of that reactive part still in there, so I always have to just work away on that a little every day to get her quieter and calmer. Now, she's kind of making a liar out of me because she looks probably pretty calm and relaxed right now, and I just got on her. But we'll just truck along here. I'll kind of go through some of the things that I would do this far into their training. So a lot of the information on training young horses you will see has to do with colts getting their first ride or two put on them. Whereas this one, it knows some stuff, but not a lot. Now what I'm going to do here is just warm her up first, because like I said, I just swung on. I haven't warmed her up. I just walked in here and got in the saddle. So I'm just going to walk around for a couple minutes. And keep in mind, I am going to show you sort of the condensed version of this. I'm not going to go through everything maybe quite as long as I typically would. This is just a little bit rushed, but not too much. So once I've walked for a minute, then I usually jog for a minute. This filly was quite bracy through the face. She was a little bit hard to get softened up. So I'll trot around here, but I'm not going to ask her to give to the bridle very much. I'm just going to change directions a bit here and there. We have started on just a tiny bit of collected work, but I don't begin the rides like that. I just want to jog around, make sure she's giving to the bridle, going where I want her to go. And I'm not doing sharp turns either. I'm just kind of doing little half circles and then straight lines. Then I'll maybe do a full circle. Now again, normally I would do this a little bit longer than what I'm showing you here. Just for the sake of the video, I'm sure you don't want to watch me trot for 10 minutes. But I'll just basically ride around like this, get them warmed up. Another thing I like to do is jog squares. Now what I mean by that is, I'll just go in a straight line, make a sharp turn, straight line, sharp turn, just repeat, repeat, repeat. And the reason I like doing this trotting squares instead of just circles is it gets them turning a little bit sharper and gets them paying a little bit more attention to the bridle. If you're always working on circles, sometimes you'll end up with a horse that kind of always turns gradually, where I want to sharpen up those turns as we go along here. So I can do this at the walk or the jog, it's fine. I'll just ride straight, sharp turn, straight, sharp turn. And I would go along like this at the walk for a minute maybe, and then I'll step it up to the trot, and I would want to do it both ways. Now one thing, I can feel this filly, she's being quite resistant through her neck this morning. So I'm going to show you the squares, but then I'm going to work specifically on softening her neck up, just because she is bracing against me a little more than I would like. Straight line, sharp turn, sharp turn, like so. And then I'm just going to turn around and do this real quick the other way. Sharp turn followed by a straight line. This filly has always been just a little bit better to the right. excuse me, a little bit better to the left in most things. Now she's being pretty good about this today, but generally she's a tad better to the left with almost everything we've done. Now most colts are going to be left-sided or right-sided, just the same way most people are right-handed or left-handed, I guess all people. But it's not the end of the world, it's just something a person has to keep in mind. You always want to make sure you're working on making their weaker side just a little bit better. Now, as I mentioned, I can feel that she's being fairly resistant through this neck area here. When she's turning, she's not really bending and following her nose very well this morning. She's kind of bracing her neck and then kind of falling into the direction that I'm asking her to go. So I'm just going to ask her to soften up just a little bit here. I'm just going to bend this horse around a few times each way. So some of you probably already do this with your horses. You just bend them around to make sure they're soft through the head and neck. Get them loosened up here. Now you can do this exercise quite a bit at a standstill, but sometimes you'll end up with a horse that's very soft at a standstill, but then they go right back to being rigid when they're in motion, which I sure don't want. So I will do this for a minute, and then what I'll start doing is going back to the circles, but I'm going to do really little small circles, almost more just turns than circles. And I'll make her give quite a bit. So I'm bending her around here. I want her to really look in the direction that we're going. I'm almost overdoing it a little bit, just because when I was picking up on that rein earlier, she really wasn't following her nose very well. And what I mean by following the nose is wherever you point them, wherever you point the nose, that's where that horse should go. And she wasn't doing it all that well, so that's why we're working on this. So I wouldn't do this a long time, just go around a minute one way, then I'll do it the other way. Now this morning she felt a little bit stiffer on this side, and you can see she's just resisting a little more on this side than she was the other side. If I pick up on her and she doesn't immediately give, I'll just give a light little bump with my fingers on the rein. I'm not going to yank on her mouth by any stretch of the imagination. See, she's kind of resisting me a little bit there. That's a little better. I'm just going to let her walk a slightly bigger circle. And give her just a minute. And then I'm going to go back to working on the little tight circles. So don't do this so long that your horse gets frustrated. But I like to work on it till I feel a little bit of an improvement. And then I'll just kind of ride out of it, give them a minute, and then I'll do it again. Again, I'm not being harsh about this by any means, but if she doesn't give, I'll just lightly bump on the rein, and I want her nose pointed in the direction that we're going. So that's not perfect, but again, I don't want to make you sit there and watch this for 10 minutes. In theory, I should probably do this for another couple minutes, but she definitely did improve a little bit, so I am going to move on to the next thing. Another exercise I like to work on is getting the horse to move laterally off leg pressure. So what I mean by that is when I put one leg on, I want the horse to move over. So basically, although we're not working on a side pass, we kind of are. This is how I would begin teaching the side pass, and it's really helpful for the purpose of the side pass, but it just gets your horse moving off leg better in all regards. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk a circle to the right. Then I'm going to pick up on the reins, pause her just a little bit, squeeze with my right leg, move her over like that a step or two, and then just ride out of it and go right back onto the circle. So that happened quick enough, you might not have had time to get all the instructions that I just gave you. So I'll just run through it once or twice more. I'm going to ride around. I'm going to pause her, but then immediately put my right leg on. The pausing part is just so the horse thinks about going sideways, not forward. So I sort of catch that forward motion, squeeze with the right leg, move her over, go just a few steps, and then ride out of it again. And I find this is a very low stress way to teach a horse to learn how to move off leg and then eventually side pass. So I can do this the other way as well. I'll just turn around here. So I'm going to ride a circle this way now. I'm going to wait till I get turned around just so you guys can get a little better view of this. Now over here, I'm going to catch her again, but this time I'm going to squeeze with my left leg. Now that time she braced against it, so I'm just going to hold. She moved over, and then I'm going to ride out of it. So when that happens and they try to go the wrong way or resist, don't get excited about it. Just kind of hold the pressure there. Usually they will figure their way out of it. If it's not working though, sometimes you just have to quit, walk around for a minute, let their mind sort of refresh, and then start again. So I'll squeeze again. And she went over a whole lot better that time. She didn't have to pause that time and think about it. She just moved over. Now, you might be thinking, that is the crookedest side pass I've ever seen. And it sort of is, but again, I'm not really going for the perfect side pass here. I'm just trying to get this horse to move off of one leg. So if I have this, later on, it's pretty darn easy to straighten the horse up. But again, right here, catch, move over a step or two, and then ride forward. So I think you probably get the idea. Also, just an important point, once you work on an exercise or two, it's a really good idea to stop and just give your horse a little break, or just walk around the area that you're training in and just let them let down and relax. If you jump from one exercise right to the other, to another one, to another one, to another one, after a while, all the information just sort of gets jumbled in their mind, and you'll feel the horses either getting a little bit uptight and maybe a little bit tense, or they just kind of stop caring. They don't really try very hard for you, and their mind kind of goes blank. So you don't want either of those things to happen, obviously. So I really do find the way around that is work till they improve a little bit, then just give them a little break, sit here, pet on them. If you have a really nervous horse, sometimes they actually are more relaxed moving than they are standing still, like this filly. So if you have a really hot horse and you do a few exercises and they go well, a lot of times just go on a slack rein, let them walk around for a little while, then you go back to your training. Now we're working in an arena here just because it's kind of a wet day outside. Outside is a nice place to train your horses though. It's nice to work on an exercise, then just ride around the field for 5 or 10 minutes, then work on another exercise. And it's a way to get a lot of training done without ever having your horse get very stressed. So just some things to keep in mind. What else should we work on here? So we've got, in theory, we've done a little bit of work on getting the horse soft through the head and neck. We've moved the horse over each way. One thing I can show you real quick here is how to move the hindquarters around, or at least I should say how I start moving the hindquarters around. This is not the finished product, but I'll build it off of this bending exercise that you already saw. So that's step one. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to bend the horse to this side. Then I'm going to move my leg back, squeeze, and move her hindquarters the other way. So what I mean by that is I'm going to bend her to the right, squeeze with my right leg, and move her hindquarters over here to the left. If you don't know what I mean, it'll make sense in a second. So I'll bring the head around, leg back, squeeze, the butt moved over that way, and I just release everything. Now, if you're being really picky, you could look at it and say, well, the whole horse shuffled around a little bit, and that's true. But at this stage of the game, oh, hold still, honey. I'll just stop her here. At this stage of the game, when it comes to moving the hindquarters, I don't really insist that they move them perfectly. As long as the hindquarters move more than the rest of the horse, at least we're somewhat moving in the right direction, and I feel like the horse is going to just get better and better. So with the babies, if the whole horse shuffles around, I don't like that if the whole horse shuffles equally. However, if the hindquarter moves a little more than the rest of the horse, you're at least somewhat on the right track. So to go this way, head around, leg back, squeeze. I'm going to bump here, there, hip moves over, and I just pet the horse. So again, that was good. She had to think about that, but it was important there that I didn't start kicking and really trying to make something happen fast. She just needed a moment to think about it. Once she thought about it, she figured it out pretty easily. So always be sure with your young horses, give them time to mull over what you're trying to do with them. Don't insist that they respond instantly. If you do that, again, by accident, you can make a horse that's a little bit uptight and nervous because they don't have time to fully wrap their mind around the exercise. So hope that wasn't too wordy and hope you understood what I meant there. So we've done that. Maybe the one part of the body I guess we haven't moved around yet is the shoulders. So working the shoulders, you can do it different ways. You can do it from motion or you can do it from a standstill. So from a standstill, it would just look like this. I'm going to pull on my right rein. I'm going to squeeze with my left leg and try to move this horse to the right. So I'll pick up here, squeeze, front end move just a little bit, and I can release. Now again, she's kind of shuffling a little bit, which I don't love, but part of this is probably because I am throwing these exercises at her just a little quicker than I would like. So I'm going to stop her here. In theory, I'm going to stop her. Move her shoulders over. That wasn't beautiful. She backed up and then kind of shuffled over more than anything else. I'm going to show you a slightly different way to work on this, and it generally works better for this particular filly. So instead of doing it at a standstill, I'm going to walk her forward, then ask her to turn. Front end moves around. Okay, now that wasn't beautiful either. Not great. Okay, she's just kind of bumbling around there. She's not really moving her shoulders like I would like. But sometimes when you work on this, if an exercise starts to fall apart, I think it's better just to get out of there and start again than it is to stay in there and continue to practice it wrong. So I'm going to walk her around, try to time this where she feels pretty good. I'm going to pick up on her. There. So that wasn't beautiful. Her hind end moved a little more than it should, but the front end did move more, and it was better than the last one. Not that I set the bar real high with the last one. It was not very special at all. Same deal. I'm just going to walk around. Every once in a while, I'm going to pick up on her, move the shoulders, and then ride forward. So that one was better. We only moved one step, but her hind end did not move as much. Now with this filly here, she is being, again, just a little bit bracy and resistant this morning. If I was here by myself training on her, I would spend quite a bit more time jogging around on her and getting her loosened up instead of worrying about this exercise. This exercise is one that tends to not work real well until your horse really is suppled up and warmed up and listening to you. And she is being just a tiny bit more bracy than I want, like I mentioned. I am going to show you just real quick it going the other way, but I'm not going to really work on this one until it's perfected, just because I think that's maybe being slightly unfair on my part to expect that from her. So I'm going to go this way. Then I'm going to pick up on her. Move the shoulders. And then just ride forward. And again, she is being a little bit bracy and resistant with me here. So I'm not going to pick on this one a whole lot. I'm going to work on that on my own time. Another way you can work around it, though, that I will show you real quick here, is by turning against the wall. And it's not really true rollbacks that I'm going to do. I'm just basically going to ride forward, turn against the wall, and then ride forward and turn against the wall going the other way. I'll show you what I mean here. So you can see the shoulders move there. Now she kind of stepped on herself a little bit, so it wasn't real pretty. just going to turn this way, shoulders moved, ride forward. That was a lot smoother right there. That was much, much better. I don't want to get too close to this wall. She's trying to get in a little tighter than I want her to be. Okay, that was pretty decent. Now you can play with that at the walk, then you can step it up to the trot. You can do it at the canter as well, but I probably wouldn't lope it very much until your horse is fairly trained. Otherwise, you'll find yourself pulling too hard on your young horses and you could scare them a little bit. So play with it at the walk for a few minutes, then step it up to the trot. Practice it quite a bit at the trot, and you'll be surprised how much better your horse is at turning from that point on. Don't do it for a long length of time. Just work on it for a couple minutes at a time, and again, it'll help you quite a bit. Another exercise we could play with here is backing up. Now, she does tend to be a little bit resistant in her backups. She always wanted to take and kind of lift her head in the air and brace up, especially in the beginning. She has gotten better, but it's not where I would call it perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going to walk forward here. Then I'm going to stop her. And then I'm going to ask her to back. There. Now she was a little crooked there. I'm just going to step her forward again. I'm going to stop her. Now again, she's trying to back pretty crooked on me. There. That's a whole lot better. So that wasn't pretty, but the end of it was better than the start of it. What I did there was, when she was backing, she was trying to move her butt way over to the right, so I was squeezing with my right leg to shove her hindquarters back to the left. That is where all these things tie together. Earlier on, I showed you bend the head around and move the hip over. That lets you straighten your horse up when he's backing up as well. So all these exercises, in the beginning, they all seem like individual exercises, but as you go along with your training, all of a sudden the pieces all kind of fit together and you use one exercise to help you train your horse for something else. So just something to keep in mind. The next thing I would probably do is canter around a little bit on her. Now, sometimes when you do the faster work depends on your horse. If you come out and your horse has tons and tons of energy, sometimes you need to lope around for a little bit to burn off enough steam that you could actually get some training done. This filly, that doesn't seem to apply to as much typically. What happens with her is, if I go out, lope around for a little bit, she gets tired, and then I feel like I have to drag her through all the maneuvers. Usually I like to work on the training a little bit more in the beginning, and then I'll work on the loping work a little later in the lesson. So I'm going to ask her to lope off here. Now, one thing she likes to do is trot a lot instead of stepping up into the canter. So I'm not going to expect perfection on this, but every time I work with her, I try to let her trot a little bit less. Now she's definitely going too fast here, so I'm kind of picking up on the reins. There, that's a little better. Again, she's going just a tad faster than I want, but instead of pulling back on her, I'm just going to keep her on the circle and let her cruise around. And then let her, she'll kind of start to slow herself down here in just a second. Oh. When it comes to the canter work, she was always too much one way or another. She liked to go, either she didn't want to canter or she wanted to run off too fast. So now I should ride her around for another 5 minutes or so at the canter and let her drop back. But again, I'm just kind of showing you the steps. So in her case, again, now we would work on loping around for a little while. But I think you probably get the idea. So I think we're probably going to wrap it up with this filly now. So when you go to end your lessons, no matter what you've been working on, I always like to spend the last couple of minutes just riding around on a slack rein, give them their face. Just, you can steer around a little bit, but for the most part, just walk around. That way there you get to end the lesson on a slow note. Now again, I skipped over stuff because I didn't lope her both ways and all that type of thing. But I think you get the idea. Just basically do more of everything that you saw here. Oh. Just pet on them. Pretty good. And I think we'll call it a day with her. Well, we've got you here. I thought I'd walk you down these next 3 stalls and show you our studs. This is Smoke, North Star smoking gun. And I believe he's turning 8 this year. He's a 16 one-hand blue roan stud. We've been using him a lot the last few years, and everything we get from him we've been happy with. Very, very quiet horses, very, very good natured horses. It's probably hard for the camera to get a very good look at them like this, but if you head over to the farm website, www.northstarlivestock.com, you can see some side views of them and get a better idea of them. If you're going through all that trouble, also go to our training website, www.thehorsetrainers.com. Take you down the next one. This is Steel. I think NS Smoking Blue Steel is his paper name. I always have a hard time remembering the registered names. But this guy here, he's a coming 4-year-old. And we bred him to a few mares last year. And we got just a few babies on the go this year that'll be born here anytime now. Again, very good natured horse. We really like him. This is North Star Rio Bravo. And he's coming 5, I believe, now. And he's also a blue roan, all 3 of them are. Now he was turned loose in the arena this morning, so he's got a lot of sand on him. So his color might look just a little bit funny. But we've had a decent number of foals now on the ground from him. Again, very good natured stallion. And we've really liked him. The only fault is he loves to roll in the sand for about 20 minutes straight. So he always looks just a tad dusty after his little runs. But he's been a very good horse for us. So anyways, that's our 3 studs. They're all a little bit full of it right now. We're just about to start breeding season. And I think they're aware that breeding season is coming. But again, any information if you want to see on them or babies they produce, just head on over to the website, www.northstarlivestock.com, or the farm Facebook page, North Star Livestock. And then again, for the training materials, www.thehorsetrainers.com, or our Facebook page, which is Jason and Bronwyn Irwin Horsemanship. Hope you're all having a great day. See you on the next one.